Steve Nash is going to be the new head coach for the Brooklyn Nets. It's kind of weird to even say that. This is breaking news that has stunned the NBA world and just the sports world in general. Nobody saw this coming. Of all the names that we've heard who were possibilities for the Nets coaching job, nobody has mentioned Steve Nash. We heard Greg Popovich maybe. Tyronn Lue, Jacques Vaughn made a really good impression with the Nets front office. Mark Jackson's name was thrown out there, but nobody saw Steve Nash coming as the next head coach for the Nets. And this is shocking not only because it's Steve Nash, but this is a guy with no head coaching experience. Most recently, he was a consultant for the Golden State Warriors. So this kind of goes back to the old saying, it's not so much what you know, but it's who you know. Because Steve Nash has a pre-existing relationship with lots of folks in the Nets front office. He was part of a long recruitment process by Nets management, and they finally got their guy. Sean Marks, who is the general manager for the Nets, was actually a teammate with Steve Nash back when they played together for the Phoenix Suns. So they have that relationship already. He also has a relationship with some of the Nets players that I'm going to get into later on in this video. But that really seems to be a common theme with the Brooklyn Nets, is relationships and getting people in there who you're familiar with and who you're comfortable with. Guys, I'm still reeling from this news, and I've got lots of thoughts on this. Real quick, though, if you like this type of content, if you like this video, make sure to drop a like. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, would love to have you on board. We're going for 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. All right, so let's get into this video, and I want to start off with a little bit of a background on who Steve Nash is. If you're a big basketball fan, even if you're just a casual fan, you know all about Steve Nash. Steve Nash is a former two-time MVP back when he played with Phoenix. He's an 8-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA first team, 5-time NBA assist leader, 4-time member of the 50-40-90 club, meaning he shot 50% from 2, 40% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. And yeah, that's really hard to do. Only a few guys in the history of the NBA have done that. Steve Nash did it 4 times. All in all, 18-year career with Phoenix, Dallas, and the Lakers. And to top it all off, he was a 2-time NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors as a consultant for their championship teams in 2017 and 2018. When we think about Steve Nash, though, I always think about those Phoenix Suns teams where Mike D'Antoni was the coach. He was the engine for that team in the 2000s, along with Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion. They really revolutionized the NBA, and the impacts of that team are still being felt today, especially when you look at a team like the Houston Rockets. Those Phoenix Suns teams really introduced into the NBA a fast-paced offense, floor spacing, small ball lineups, and that reliance on three-point shooting. And Steve Nash, he started it all, and he was a big part and really the main reason, besides D'Antoni, of all that. After leaving Phoenix, Nash spent the last couple of years of his career with the Lakers, playing with Kobe, Powell, Dwight Howard was on the team for one of those seasons. But since his retirement, he hasn't really been on TV too much as an analyst or doing commentating. He's just been behind the scenes working with other players, working as a consultant primarily with the Golden State Warriors. So you got to ask yourself, why did the Nets make this move? A big part of that is the relationships, and I mentioned the relationship that he already has with Sean Marks. But he also has a really strong relationship with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. In terms of Nash's relationship with Kyrie, he even said, Kyrie and I have a history, not only being 2 point guards, but he is one of my favorite players to watch. Kyrie and I spent a couple days in the gym in New York City working out, and there's a respect and admiration there for me. For me and Kyrie, our relationship is important. He is the point guard and I'm the coach. I'm thrilled to get the opportunity to know him better, to understand him, how he plays, what he sees, and be there to help him refine his gifts. If you know anything about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you know that they're the types of players that really have to get along with their coach. I mean, that was the big reason that Kenny Atkinson and the Brooklyn Nets parted ways because he did not see eye to eye for whatever reason with KD and Kyrie. Well, as I mentioned, Nash worked with Kevin Durant when he was with the Warriors. Steve Nash was one of the guys who Kevin Durant confided in, consulted with, and got advice from when he was thinking about leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder and making his way to the Golden State Warriors a few seasons ago. All in all, this Steve Nash hire is, I think, very low risk, very high reward, and also there's a lot of marketability behind it because people are going to be paying attention to the Nets because of this hire. So you may be asking yourself, why would you go with Steve Nash, who's never been a head coach at any level? I would answer it with this. With the Nets and Steve Nash, it's not about being an X's and O's kind of guy. Nash and his coaching staff, sure, they can run an offense that's going to maximize their two stars in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but KD and Kyrie are two of the greatest basketball players on the planet. They don't need a coach who's going to draw up plays every time down the court. They don't need a hard-nosed coach, somebody like Greg Popovich, for instance, who is going to get on them when they make a mistake, who's going to yell at them constantly throughout the entire game. Maybe you're saying to yourself, KD and Kyrie, why are they such special snowflakes? They can't be yelled at by the coach. They can't be corrected when they make a mistake. So sure, maybe that's not completely fair, but you have to be honest with yourself and realize that the NBA is a players' league. If the two-star players aren't happy, then the team is going to be very dysfunctional. The Nets learned that with Kenny Atkinson. Because you got to remember, Nash has a history with some of the biggest personalities in the NBA. I mentioned before, he played with Kobe Bryant, he played with Dwight Howard, he played with Shaquille O'Neal, and he knows how to relate to all those guys as a former player and as a human being. Maybe it's easy to compare Steve Nash and Steve Kerr because they're both guys who are former players, former point guards, didn't have any coaching experience when they got their first job, and they have that relationship of working together with the Warriors. But I think of it this way. Steve Kerr also played with some of the biggest personalities in the NBA. This is a guy who played with Michael Jordan and was even punched in the face by Michael Jordan, but ended up becoming really good friends with him afterwards. There's something about the personality of Steve Kerr and Steve Nash that draws guys in. They're leaders, and they care about the people who they're leading. So what type of team will the Nets have with Steve Nash as the coach? Well, of course, we'll get more information in the coming days, coming weeks, coming months, but at first glance, I feel like this is going to be a very high-scoring team. This is going to be a team that is going to be a combination of the Kevin Durant Warriors and the D'Antoni Suns. My biggest concern would be getting a strong defensive coach in there to be an assistant to help the Nets in that area. And of course, you're going to have free agent decisions as well that you're going to have to be taken care of in this offseason. Guys, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Are you a fan of this hire? Are you a Nets fan that wanted somebody else to be the coach of this team? I'd love to hear it. Make sure you let me know. Also, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.